Corinne, I'm happy to take some questions.
Thank you so much, Administrator. Go ahead, Steve.
Thanks, Corinne. Thanks, Administrator. Hoping you could speak to whether your agency has enough money currently to fund the immediate response needs, or is there a need to go to Congress quickly to get additional funds? And then separately, 10 days out from the presidential transition, what steps are underway at FEMA to ensure that what has been done so far and what's going to be done in the coming days is sustained at the career level and beyond, into the new administration? Thank you.
Yeah, with the recent supplemental, FEMA received $27 billion. And so we are now able to continue to support the ongoing recovery efforts for all of the disasters that we've been supporting, to include now the immediate response and the initial recovery efforts that are going to be needed here in California. So we're very grateful for the bipartisan support from Congress to give us that additional funding so we can meet the needs of the individuals that have been impacted. And as far as going through the transition, we have an amazing, dedicated workforce of women and men that are going to be able to continue to support them. Our regional administrator here has worked many fires across several different administrations, and we are going to work day in and day out to continue to support them through the authorities that are given to us through the Stafford Act.
Thank you, Administrator, for taking our questions. I wonder, realistically, how quickly will people be able to obtain these temporary living quarters? What are you doing to set those up? Where are you setting them up? And how are you making sure to get in contact with people that may need those temporary shelters?
Yeah, so the first step that everybody needs to do, there's two things. They need to register for assistance with FEMA so they get in our system and we can continue to work with them on a case-by-case basis, because we know that everybody is going to have an individual and unique need, and they need to contact their insurance company because their insurance company may also provide alternate living expenses. We have a suite of tools, and one of the biggest tools and the best resources we have is reimbursing individuals for either the hotel costs that they're experiencing right now, or if they find a place to rent, reimbursing them for rental assistance. Given where we're at right now, we know that there's going to be a lot of rental resources, and that's going to be the best resource and the best tool that we have to support the families that have been impacted. But we have other tools in our toolbox. And so, again, we want to work with everybody individually because we know that everybody's situation is going to be different, and we're going to apply the right tool for their particular situation.
Thank you, Administrator. I know you can't obviously put a dollar sign on this, but can you just help us put into perspective a bit how you think the cost of this may compare to the cost of other recent natural disasters? And I'm hoping you could also comment on some misinformation that's out there. We've seen these erroneous evacuation orders and how concerned you are that may lead to people to not responding to or not paying close enough attention to actual real alerts.
Yeah, it's really hard right now on the cost of the disaster to put a number on it because we haven't been able to assess how much of the infrastructure has been damaged. I mean, we know the thousands of homes that have been impacted, but the real cost of these disasters comes from how much of the actual infrastructure has been damaged, the roads, the water system, the power, but also the soft costs and the economic impact. We know that this is going to be billions. And so we really want to continue to focus right now on whatever we can do to continue to support California in getting this fire suppressed and starting this recovery process. And again, thanks to the bipartisan support of Congress, we have enough funding to support those recovery efforts and these response efforts. And as far as the misinformation and the alert that went out, I mean, we want to make sure people are getting timely and accurate information. And I will defer to the county for the specifics on what they're doing as far as that alert, but know that it's part of our wireless emergency alert platform that FEMA offers to state and locals, and we are providing technical assistance to them to make sure we can help them understand what happened and ensure that it doesn't happen again, because we have to be able to send out accurate information so we can give people the right information and they know to believe it.
Good job.
Thanks, Bree. Administrator, the President was referring in the Oval earlier and yesterday to, I guess, some misinformation about the fire hydrants. Can you just spell it out clearly? Is there a water shortage? Is there an issue with water? And if not, what's the issue?
Yeah, I mean, I would really defer to the city and the county for the specifics, but what I have been briefed is that it was an overload of the system, right? There were so many simultaneous fires that happened at once. There was multiple firefighting resources that were utilizing and using the water system to put out these fires, and it put a strain on the system. And it takes time for that system to then regenerate. But the specifics on it, I really just want to make sure that you talk with them. As we heard from, the Los Angeles City Fire Chief yesterday, they plan for this. They have other resources available with water tenders, and now we have the ability to fly the aircraft into these communities to help put that fire out. And so it really, you talk about the multiple simultaneous fires that started, and it just put a strain on the system from my understanding.
Just one follow-up on the coordination with the incoming administration. Are you speaking to anyone yourself on the transition, and has the misinformation aspect come up in those discussions?
So we have a whole team dedicated to be working with the transition team, and they're providing regular briefings to them on a daily basis. And so we're providing whatever information that they ask for.
President Biden committed to 180 days of 100% match on recovery funds. Just technically, how is he able to commit to 6 months when he's only going to be in office for 10 more days? Is that locked in, or could that change if the next administration has a different idea?
This is a practice that many administrations have utilized to help support the immediate needs in the response to one of these major catastrophic disasters. And what we want to be able to do is recognize the catastrophic impact of that. And the president has the authority through the statute, through law, to be able to commit this amount of funding to support the recovery efforts. I would hope that we look at this, as I think Corinne said earlier, that these are communities that have had a catastrophic impact, and that we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can as a federal family to support them on this recovery journey. The statute, the law, allows us to do exactly what we did and allows the president to make that determination, and this is what they need. They need this support in order to facilitate the recovery that's going to have to happen.
And just a quick follow, does that mean that it can't be rolled back?
I'm certain that, anybody can make a determination on if they want to do something or not, but this was done according to the statute, and I would think that the statute would say that this is the direction that needs to happen and that it shouldn't be rolled back.
This is Arlette Sines with CNN. In your conversations with any of the local officials, have any of them expressed concerns about the possibility that that funding could be rolled back?
Well, I think I've gotten the question from several people about what's going to happen over the transition. And the same thing that I've said to you is that we have dedicated career women and men that have been supporting disaster response for everywhere around the country, not just this administration, but the previous administration and every administration before that. And the actions that we have taken in this administration are no different than the types of declarations that have happened before. And I want to assure them that the law, the Stafford Act, that gives us the authority to provide these declarations is one that has withstood since 1979, and we will continue to implement it as directed by the law.
Kelly.
Administrator Kelly O'Donnell from NBC. Do you have concerns about the inventory of available housing for people who've been displaced and for the length of time it would take for rebuilding? Obviously, it's going to be some time before you can even clear parcels that people may own or what have you. Do you see almost an extinction of some of these communities for a period of time?
So we're going to work with the state to understand what the housing stock is, because as I said, one of the best resources that we have is our rental assistance, and we want to get people into that longer term temporary situation as quickly as possible so they can continue on with their lives. We're going to have to do an assessment to see what the availability is, and then determine if we're going to need to bring in other tools to help support the ongoing housing requirement for these communities. But know that our goal is to keep people in these communities. We do not want them to move far from their communities. This is where they work. This is where their schools are. This is where their family, their religious institutions are. And so our goal is to find everything we can as close to their communities so they can keep the community part of them intact, right? The houses and the buildings might be gone, but the community stays, right? That community spirit will always be there. And so that is what our goal is, and that's what we'll work with the state and the county to achieve.
In the back, go ahead.
Thanks, Corinne. Thanks, Administrator. The President previewed that the death toll was likely to increase. Does the federal government have a handle on how many missing people there are, as well as any advice you have for people dealing with air quality issues at the moment?
So I didn't hear the second question, but to answer the first question, that's something I would have to defer to the state. All of those numbers come from the coroner to determine the number of fatalities, and the number missing is something that they'll track. We're just going to continue to support them if they need resources to help with that. And then what was your second question?
Just about advice that you would have for people dealing with air quality issues in the area?
With their what issues?
Air quality issues in the area.
Oh,
What's
air
your
quality,
advice? What's your
air quality
advice to
issues.
folks on the
Again, listening to your local officials, there's definitely air quality issues around the area. And, you know, the beauty of the wind dying down is that they can get better control over the fires, but it also doesn't blow the smoke out. And so there are definitely a lot of concerns from across the area here about what the air quality is going to look like. And so they need to make the decisions that's best for them. And I know that the departments of public health at both the county and the state are providing information and guidance, and I would have them listen to them for what the best resources are for them to protect themselves from the air quality impacts from these fires.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Administrator. I'm curious, as you're briefing the incoming administration, are there specific steps you are recommending that they take in this response, given how long-term it's likely going to be?
Yeah, that's something that, I mean, our career staff that are here on the ground in California that are going to be back at headquarters, they will continue to work through all of the requirements to support the recovery efforts. And as the incoming administration comes on board, we will give them an update as to where we're at with the status and any challenges that we're finding and the direction and the vision that we need to do to achieve the governor, the mayor's outcomes for this disaster recovery, but all of the disaster recoveries, right? We had 179 disaster declarations just last year alone. And so our team that has been working these day in and day out for the last 4 years will continue to do so within the new administration.
Okay, last question.
Thank you, Corinne. So as the rebuilding gets underway, will there be any requirements around fire-resistant building materials to be used and other safety measures that, you know, construction folks should adhere to?
I just want to make sure I heard the question. As the rebuilding begins, are there going to be requirements on how they rebuild? Did I hear that right? I'm sorry.
Yes, on fire resistance.
Yeah, fire resistance.
Yeah, so one of the things that we can do to help support these communities is we do have mechanisms through our mitigation programs, whether that's in the public infrastructure that's getting rebuilt or through our hazard mitigation grants that the state can offer. As they rebuild, we want them to rebuild in a way that helps make them more fire resistant. And so we encourage the use of that flexibility within our authorities to make sure that these communities are stronger to face any future events that they might see like this.
Okay. All right, Administrator, since we have 10 days left, I wanted to be sure to say thank you so much for your service. It's been an honor to work with you. Please stay safe in California. And again, thank you so much.
Thanks, Corinne. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, I have actually 2 more things, and then I'll get to questions. So